Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Leverage Your Podcast show. And within podcasting, there is a lot of opportunity for networking, for collaborations. And I've been really leaning into networking over the past 6 months, and it has been amazing. But they're not all cut from the same cloth. And so I met Donnie and we chatted and he talked about what he does. And I was like, oh, you need to be on the show. We need to have this conversation about why networking is broken and what makes it successful and what doesn't. So thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I think do we get that right? Thanks for coming on. Thanks for having. Yeah, I
I
think we
know,
got
I kind of, yeah. It's like 40 degrees here Celsius. So it's like I'm like melting as we speak.
that. Well, they're very similar. Hit 98 here in the U.S., so it's hot.
Yeah, it's
It's hot.
crazy. Yeah. So let's just dive in. Like, why is networking broken?
So everybody that's listening needs to know that I come from a perspective of business to business. So
Mhm.
when I'm talking networking, I'm talking about people who are selling into companies. Okay. Um, the reason networking is broken is because networking has traditionally been taught by transactional people, not
Mhm.
bad people, just transactional. So your realtors, your financial advisors, your bankers, like if I sell you a house, I don't need to talk to you for the next 10, 20 years. I might send you a postcard, and likes, but you're not going to buy another house for a long while. Okay. So same thing with financial advisory. I sell you your services. I'm not going to need you for a while. Okay. When you sell into companies, the if I land a client in a deal, we're crawling in bed together.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to see that client almost more often than I see my family, right or wrong, however you want to look at that, right? So if I do half the things that are taught in traditional selling in a B2B environment, I'm going to get my teeth kicked in. And I always jokingly say it this way. Imagine walking up to a CEO of a $20 million company and introducing yourself with a jingle attached to it. Like it's just not going to go over well.
No, so weird.
So we had to fundamentally rebuild networking so it made sense. And it's things like we don't network for referrals. We're not necessarily networking for clients. Clients will come, referrals will come. But we
Hmm.
had to literally change up the game of how networking is done so it is successful because in the B2B game, it's not going to be a one call close. It's going to be a 6 months, 18 months, 2 year conversation before a deal gets done. And networking works at the same speed. So we'll start there, then we can dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like whether you're an extrovert or introvert, when you hear the word networking, you just close up, right? You're like, oh God. And, now with Zoom and so forth and COVID, blah, 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 like it's all virtual, but it's still awkward. And if you're thrown into a room and then, like, oh, like, give your pitch on who you are and what you do, and it just feels so stiff.
Yep, 100%. I the whole idea of having an elevator pitch or a 30-second commercial to me is the dumbest thing on the planet. And the reason being is anything beyond about 5 words is an unintentional pitch, or
Hmm.
you're avoiding the flinch. And what I mean by avoiding the flinch is if you're in an industry that's commodity driven or maybe not appreciated a whole lot. And I'll pick on financial advisors again. Like when a financial advisor, they're the ones you'll hear them say, well, I do legacy wealth creation for generational family money, blah. And they're just making shit up as they go. Right. Now, and the reason they're doing that is because they've said, I'm a financial advisor, and people flinch. They're like, oh, crap, another financial advisor. Right. And I always tell them, I said, wouldn't you had somebody looking at your money and like they wanted to manage your money? Would you rather have the person who's trying to hide or scoot around or not say what they actually do, or the person that's so confident in their abilities, they're like, I'm a financial advisor. Tell me about you. How did you get into what you do? Right? They
Hmm.
own the conversation versus shy away from the conversation. And what I mean by once you get past 5 words, you start pitching is because you go from telling people what to do to explaining what you do. And it's a subconscious move that you may not even know what's going on, where you're almost going, man, I hope this person really likes this and goes, oh my God, I'm looking for what you sell. Right. It's a subconscious move. It's not even a conscious effort. So you need to just own your industry, right? And then be able to articulate specifically who you'd like to meet. So
Mm,
it's, if I'm a financial advisor, it's, hey, I'm Donnie. I'm a financial advisor, and I'd actually like to meet with business coaches. I'd like to meet with fractional CFOs and potentially bookkeepers, because all of those people are talking to people about money, and I want to be a part of that conversation, right? So it's changing the dynamics of how we introduce ourselves. And there's a whole theology I have behind that. Theology may be the wrong word, but whole ideology
yeah.
behind it, of that framework.
Yeah, and it again, it's as well. It's on the host, obviously, who's curating these networking groups, and but it's also educating those that are attending. So let's hit one first. So there are very many, joint venture groups, coaching that are curating these groups. How can you lead it in a way that's going to be helpful versus cringy?
100%. So, couple of thoughts. Let's go at it from the standpoint of you're a participant, and then go as you're the person running it. I think you can go anywhere and network and make it extremely valuable, as long as you quit trying to go for sales, as long as you quit trying to go for clientele. Um, when you sell B2B, our clientele are never networking. You're not going to find them at chamber events after hours or anything. You're not going to see a CEO of a $2 million company hanging out at a
No.
chamber event, right? So we know that we're not going around and going to be able to be referred into these ideal clients, because everybody protects their network. So we've got people understanding that if I get connected to other people who have my client base,
Hmm.
then I got a better opportunity to build some sort of collaboration with them to be able to have a lot of business done. So fun story to explain it. A gal came to me at some point last year, and she did tuition assistance for people, helping them save money getting their kids through college. And she was extremely frustrated. And I said, do you understand why people aren't referring you? And she said, no, I don't. I said, because nobody wants to admit they can't afford to send their kids to college, right? So nobody's coming out forthright and saying that. I said, but there is somebody who's having an intimate conversation about their finances on a regular basis. And I asked her, I said, if you look through any referrals you've ever gotten, what industry do those referrals come from? And she said, oh, I have a bookkeeper that sends them to me on a regular basis. I'm like, makes sense. They're talking about money, right? It's going to come up. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to start introducing yourself, saying, I'm so and so. I do tuition assistance, and I'd love to meet your bookkeeper.
Ooh,
She, about 6 months later, calls me up in absolute tears, and she goes, Donnie, I got to thank you. You tripled my business, because about every third or fourth bookkeeper she met had a client ready that needed her.
amazing.
So when we flip the script from going to trying to find clients to thinking through who sells to my clients that is not competition to me,
Hmm.
and how can I get connected to them? So that's how you do it if you're a participant. If you facilitate that room, explain that concept, and then get them to say who would be your best referral partner, and watch the introductions happen quickly.
Yeah. And I have seen that in action. I've been in so many networking calls, and one of them was who you are, what you do, but who you would like to be connected with. And I thought, oh, that's smart. Like no one's ever asked that. And it did facilitate a better conversation. So going in as an attendee, what should my goal be?
Mm. So think about your biggest client you're currently working with. Okay. Let's pretend I sell, I don't know, commercial printing. Okay. You and I meet for the very first time, and I say, Lindsay, great to meet you. I'd love to meet your number one client and talk to him about commercial printing. What's the odds you actually introduce me to that your number one client? Hell
No.
no, right? Ain't gonna happen. Okay. So the first thing we have to understand is People are super protective of their clientele and who they could actually refer you into. First, let's separate an introduction and referral. An introduction, two good people meet, right? You just, Lindsay meet Bob, think it'd be a cool conversation, go have a great
Hmm.
conversation. A referral is an introduction with a sales call attached, right? So it's, hey, Lindsay, I met Mark. He's talking about podcasting and getting into that space. I've told him all about you. He's really excited to talk. There's a minimum of sales discovery call attached to that. Okay. And you have to separate the two out.
Yeah.
So the goal for me of any room I'm walking into is how many introductions can I make before I leave? Okay. And the reason I look at it from that perspective is I'm looking at who's in a room, how are they saying what they do? And if I introduce you to somebody, not even a referral, if I introduce you to somebody, and maybe I introduce you to two or three somebodies, the likelihood of you wanting to go, man, I need to do something back for Donnie is huge, right? I don't believe in the giver's gain methodology. Okay. I think giver's gain has caused more damage than good. And that's not a bash on BNI. It's an amazing organization. But what the giver's gain has done is gotten people to give, and then never receive anything in return because they don't understand the actual law of reciprocity.
Hmm.
So I'll look at any room you go into and go, okay, how many introductions can I give to the right people? Because every time I give those introductions, I become top of mind or they want to know more about me.
Yeah. That is
So
so true. And seen that, like, and experienced it, and it's, yeah, and I feel like too it takes the pressure off when you're there to serve and help somebody else. You feel good about what you're doing. You don't have those kind of icky weird feelings. Now, how can we prepare better for these networking calls?
So one, I think for if you're really extremely introverted, you need to practice saying what you do in the simplest amount of terms. So everybody has a game plan. Like Mr. T says it best, everybody's got a plan until you're punched in the face. But the it's fun to watch people. You can tell they're waiting, watching the screen go around, how close it's going to get to them, and they're almost playing in their head what they're going to say, what they're going to say, what they're going to
Yeah.
say, or they you can tell they've got the script up in front of them. Practice what you're going to say. Get really good at saying, how do I literally just tell the industry I am in the simplest of terms? Because if you're doing B2B marketing in particular, this interaction is not going to be the only time you meet these people. It's B2B. You're going to see them time over time over time over time. What you say does not matter a whole lot,
Mm.
right? So it's what do I do in less than 5 words? What industries would I like to meet? Right? So it's I'm an accountant and I'd love to meet with bookkeepers that don't have accounting services, business coaches, um, it's I'm a sales trainer. I'd love to meet with marketing firms, fractional CROs, so you're looking at who's adjacent to me. So you can make that introduction. Uh, quick story. When I
Mm.
sold commercial printing, my number one account was a company called Mary Kay. And it was a very large account for me. And anywhere I went networking, I needed clients who could spend $100,000 a year on commercial printing, big companies. But everywhere I networked, I kept running into people that were like, could you print my business cards? I'm like, no, I don't want to do a $50
Mhm.
deal. I need a lot bigger deal. So I went up to the main print buyer inside of Mary Kay and I said, what else do you buy? And he told me he bought promotional products. There's a whole longer story there, but basic gist of it is I took that back to my network and I said, hey, I sell commercial printing and I'd love to meet anybody you know who sells promotional products. We weren't competition. We were very much synergistic. We were talking to the same exact buyer, parallel to each other, and weren't competition. I've sold a lot of money over the years by getting connected to those type of people because they're adjacent to me. So the more you practice what you do, short, quick sentences, and get more specific on who you need to meet, that's when it'll get a lot better for you.
That's such a good analogy so that you can picture it in your head of, like, who is that adjacent business to you and who would you connect with? And I feel like that's thinking outside of the box a little bit instead of that direct line. It's
Yep.
like, how can you make it easier? Um, So I find that not every group is created equal. I've been in some groups and I'm like, ooh, like they're all just starting out their businesses. Like they're not my ideal client. Like how do you suss out the right group to be in?
So sometimes you just have to go experience it.
Fair enough.
Right. Unfortunately. I have a couple of unwritten rules that, if I walk in, there's a single MLM in the room, I'm out. Because that tells me everything else I need to know. So if MLM, multi-level marketing, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call it, I'm out. Because there's not an MLM out there that's selling to businesses at the level that my people need to be selling.
Mhm.
Right. The second thing is if I walk in and 90% of the room is selling business to consumer, realtors, financial advisors, mortgage titles, I'm out. Right. Because they're all amazing people in that case. It's just a one-sided conversation. Right. So for me, it's and even when a group lists itself as B2B and they're selling B2B, I ask them to decide to define what selling B2B means. And
Oh,
what you're going to find is it's not really B2B. So, because you go in, they're going to have life insurance agents, and they're like, life insurance says, well, we sell, to companies. No, you sell to the individual in the companies. Now, there are caveats. There are life insurance companies that do sell policies to entire companies, but they're not traditionally, you don't find them often out in networking and the likes.
yeah.
So we defined B2B by you are selling a service to the company, not the individuals in the company.
Yeah.
And as long as you're asking those right questions, you can find out really quickly who's in the room and if you need to spend your time there.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. And so what I like about your company is how you create specific networking groups or chapters, if you will, that are like for specific niches. So I feel like you would get so much more out of that, that you're instantly around the right people. So because it's so unique, can you explain
Yeah.
your company kind of like how it works?
So we do. I mean, we have some more generics, the wrong word, but we have some more groups that are all encompassing. So we have some like national chapters and some local chapters that are a mixed bag of who they are. Around middle end of last year, one of my members came to me and said, "Hey, Donnie, can we start a group that's focused on manufacturing and logistics?" I'm like, "That's fun. Let's try it." So we now have a group that's all everybody in the group sells into manufacturing companies, which brought in some really unique characters. So there's a CEO of an overhead crane company. There's a guy who sells automation and conveyor belts in there. So brought in a lot of neat people. Then we launched a hospitality group. So everybody there sells in hospitality. So restaurants, hotels, and the likes. And we've had some fantastic companies come through, from food companies to chocolate companies to, of course, your consultants and your POS and your tech and stuff. We're in the process of opening a GovCon group right now. So government
Ooh.
contracting. And then we're working on a commercial construction group. We're working on a medical device group right now. And we're into talks about potentially starting a group in nothing but the agriculture space.
Oh,
So
wow.
bringing all the ag people together, which is not something I ever thought of. That one just got brought to me recently.
That's awesome. I know it's amazing how many kind of industries that are out there. But like to me, what you're doing is absolutely changing the game for so many people in those industries to be able to have a networking community where you can come together, talk shop, but then also like you said, there's so much opportunities when they work together. And quite often when you're a business owner, you just don't know how to do that. You don't know where to go.
Yeah, it's funny. Literally right before we jumped on here, I had all my network together and we were running some workshops and I was teaching them just different ways to collaborate. I said, here's what you're going to do, guys. I'm going to put you guys in groups one on one and you have 5 minutes. Well, in that 5 minutes, you have to come out having figured out a way you can collaborate together.
Oh,
So
wow.
whether you do a workshop, whether do maybe an email to your list,
Yeah.
one of the most creative things that came out of this, and literally this just happened, is a guy who runs merchant services company, a completely different merchant services than I'd seen out there, and a corporate travel agent got put together. And in year one, he can literally save companies about 5 grand a year on their merchant services fees. And he said, what if we build a package together that if they save that 5,000 a year, we send them on a corporate trip through you. And so they came up with this whole concept now where they can
Wow.
market this together and go to market and say, here's a way you can win, save money, and celebrate the activity. It was just a cool thought process
Yeah,
that happened in 5 minutes.
that's
Um,
crazy.
so when we bring these groups together that are so energy focused, that's a lot of type of things that come out of it because now they're like, hey, did you see XYZ companies moving into the market? Anybody got eyes, ears on them coming in,
Mhm.
figuring out who to talk to and collaborate and get in there. So it's been really cool.
I love that. And yeah, when you're forced in a situation to like find a solution or be super creative, like the world is your oyster. There's so much that can be done. And we just, when you're sitting here by yourself, you you just don't think of it. I love it.
100%. 100%.
That is so cool. So do you then like people come to you and they're like, "Hey man, how do I create a chapter?" Like how can someone, I guess, work with you to be a chapter leader to start a group, but can we also figure out what networking groups you have to join as a business
Yeah.
owner? Okay.
So you can go to successchampionnetworking.com and just click on visit a chapter. You'll see all of our chapters listed there. And there's a spot on there if you want to start your own chapter, you can send a message or connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a DM as part of the connection request. Hey, I'd love to talk about visiting or starting a chapter. I
Mhm.
can tell you right now, we are in desperate need of presidents. We've been growing so
Mm,
fast. We finally hit a place where I've got tons of people that want to join the network. They
yeah.
don't necessarily want to start chapters. So I've got plenty of people that want to go into groups right now. So we're really looking for new chapter presidents.
And honestly, like we were talking behind the scenes about one of my clients, and I'm like, if she was a leader of this chapter, just think about the credibility
Oh, amazing.
and the just like this stature, authority, but just having those connections and then also quote unquote being in more control of it versus just being an attendee. Like I just feel like there's so much opportunity in that alone. Like some people shy away from that, but it's like imagine what it can do for your business.
Oh, I can tell you our best presidents tend to be introverts because they can follow process and systems. Like take Jessica for instance. She successfully launched 6 chapters for us. Is an extreme introvert. Like it takes a lot to get her to come out of her shell. But in doing so, she built a very very successful company out of it because people were seeing her at the front of the room more often than
Hmm.
not. And there was just a lot of power in that.
Yeah, I love it. Share your URL again so people can find you.
So before I
And
do that, let me
yeah,
let me do one thing for you guys. If
of
you're
course.
still hanging out with us and you guys got any value out of this whatsoever, do Lindsay a favor, take a screenshot wherever you're watching and listening to this, post it to social media, tag me and Lindsay on it. If I see it, I promise I will come comment on it, give it some love. But having my own shows over the years, I can tell you, growing an audience is one of the toughest things in the world. Right. So that's like literally giving her a virtual hug. And it also helps her figure out this is the kind of content you want
Mhm.
more of. So if you want to find more information from me, go to successchampionnetworking.com or find me, Donnie Boivin, on LinkedIn. I'm the only one with my name spelled this way, so it's easy to find.
Awesome. You're a gem. I love talking to you.
Thanks,
And
man.
I
Same.
love virtual hugs. So, yes, any which way they come. All
Uh,
right. I so appreciate being on the show. And I just love what you're doing. And yeah, any way I can help and support you, I'm there.
awesome. Appreciate you, Lindsay.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a good week. And we'll see you on the next episode of Leverage Your Podcast Show.